All right, guys, it's been a crazy 24 hours in the market. I woke up this morning, markets were super green. Portfolio was at highs that I haven't seen in a few months. Honestly, it was absolutely amazing. And then this afternoon, we had bad PPI news, so bad inflation data, which sent markets spiraling, at least for around 30 minutes until we've seen somewhat of a pretty strong recovery, which I want to discuss today. So obviously Bitcoin wicked down around $7,000 at one point, actually from 124 to the lows of 117. Ethereum also had a pullback, which is basically already recovered, which is absolutely insane, from 4,700 to 4,400 and now back to 4,700. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the positions that I have just taken. I took actually a bunch of longs during this dip. I want to run through why I've taken these longs. Athena, Ethereum, Link, Bitcoin, also looking at some other plays as well. So I'm going to tell you exactly why I did that. I'll run through those trades. I'm going to run through on where you can be looking at next in terms of the hot ecosystems, because I think there are two really obvious setups in the market at the moment that me and my research team are really researching heavily. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on this PPI news. So firstly, let's begin with PPI. Oh, actually, firstly, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already so you don't miss the daily alpha. I actually had a different kind of video planned for today, and I'm like, no, there's so much happening, so much volatility. I have to come and do a quick market show for you guys and reveal some of my portfolio updates, because I have made a few changes today, which we'll run through later in the video. But first, let's talk about what happened with PPI. So the July PPI inflation data actually rose to 3.3%, above expectations of 2.5%. So if you don't know what PPI data is, it's the producer data. So oftentimes the producer data, the manufacturing data, ends up being passed on to consumers. This honestly may be a sign that the tariffs are increasing inflation in the US. I know, shock horror. So these were above expectations, which had the markets a little bit spooked, because obviously a hotter inflation rate potentially mitigates how dovish the Fed can be in the next Jackson Hole meeting, which we are going to get in September to make an interest rate decision. So aka the probability of rate cuts should theoretically decrease and shift the dot plot if inflation is coming in hotter. That's why the market got scared and flushed out a lot of leverage. In fact, on those wicks, there was over $1 billion of money liquidated from the crypto market, over $750 million of which was long. Guys, I don't recommend logging into resistance, especially with leverage in the market. Best to do so on flushes like we did get today if you are going to use leverage. My other recommendation is that you actually set stink bids as well, because you never know when a flush like this is going to happen. And some of the easiest money in crypto is during bull market flushes. So what I would do is I would go onto an exchange and I would actually set stink bids across all the top altcoins in the market, you know, at the key levels like the 4-hour money noodle, the key daily high time frame levels, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get a quick flush like today into those levels and actually get some entry. So going forward, that is a strategy, because it has shown us again that leverage tends to build up in the market when you do have a continued move in either direction, in this case to the long side. But despite this liquidation cascade happening, the market did recover quite well, at least in the immediate term. Obviously, you know, the market might settle over the next 24 to 48 hours after this video. I fully expect that, but the initial reaction after the dip was actually quite strong, and it's because the target rate probabilities pretty much didn't change. So yes, they were slightly higher, like 98%. They are still down to 92%, but the market still thinks that we are going to see a rate cut. Obviously, the probability of a double rate cut is now almost zero. It was pretty much zero before, but it was getting to like the 1% probability across most prediction markets. However, that's out of the equation now. But the fact that we're getting a rate cut still does remain in general. As Nick says here, they're still going to cut rates in September. I agree. Think pullbacks are going to be relatively shallow until early September. WikiLeaks was the signal, and market pricing still reflecting this. The fact that monetary policy is progressively more dovish into an inflationary rebound is all you need to know right now. This is actually a very good point, because basically Trump, what he's doing is he's trying to force rates lower. We'll discuss in a second how he's actually trying to force Jerome Powell out. He wants rates a lot lower, and he's going to continue manipulating things so he can get rates lower and essentially keep pumping markets. And I think that's one of the reasons why this rebound has happened so strongly in the immediate term, because the market is kind of calling the bluff of like, yeah, we know inflation's high, but we also know that US policy is gearing towards inflating markets and lowering rates. So we don't really care, even if inflation's hot. Clearly, this is a bad thing for the economy, but we don't care in the short term. It's a bull run. That's basically, the market reaction is basically summing up everything you need to know. But there's some interesting nuance here, which I like from Kabisi. So he says, this week's inflation data was not ideal. Core CPI is now up to 3.1%. PPI and inflation are up to 3%. The question has shifted away from if the Fed will cut rates, because it's very clear that that's going to happen, to how many rates will get cut. As shown below, there's now a 94% chance of a rate cut in September, with markets pricing in a base case of 3 cuts in 2025. This comes as inflation is actually rebounding. And again, Trump says that's nothing. President Trump is now calling for a 300 basis point interest rate cut immediately. This would be 3 times larger than the 100 bips cut on March 15th, 2020, which was the largest in history. Fed Chair Powell is refusing to do so for now. However, President Trump has said that he is narrowing down his list for the next Fed Chair. Fed Chair Powell's term will end in May 2026, and the new Fed Chair announcement is coming soon. Markets will begin trading off what the new Fed guides over the Fed Chair Powell. So I think that's what's happening right now. The market knows that Powell won't be in there for long. So even if he does, maintain rates for a little bit longer, or, doesn't cut as much as Trump would like, eventually Trump's going to get the cuts, he would like. And the market is forward looking in general. So it's able to see through this. And that's why, we do see these predictions here longer term on the plot still skewing to multiple rate cuts, even though we are seeing inflation creeping back into the market. And as I said here, the market reaction is telling you everything that you need to know. So in terms of where the market sits structurally on Ethereum, it's still in an uptrend. This is still the strongest asset in the market. If you want to go onto the daily, it's still extremely bullish. If you want to go onto the weekly, it's still extremely bullish. I do expect that we're going to break highs at some point. It feels like it's going to come within the next week or so. The fact it's able to shrug off a dip like this does show me that the market still is pretty hot and, ready to continue upwards. The hourly noodle has also been a good barometer. We dipped below briefly, but we're now starting to reclaim. On Bitcoin, this is a very interesting setup because we have this descending channel that I discussed yesterday on the joint stream that I did with Paradise. We actually tagged the top range of this channel and have bounced quite strongly into that zone. I actually longed this zone. I'll show you into a second the long on Bitcoin that I actually took. It's already up quite nicely. You can see my Bitcoin long here is up already 4%. And yeah, this is kind of the level to pivot off at the moment. Obviously, you've also got this horizontal level here if you want to draw it in at the 120K region, 119 to 120K, which we're also pivoting off at the moment. So Bitcoin's still looking fairly strong. The fact that the daily candle, which looked quite ugly the other day, was also eaten up fairly quickly was a positive sign. So you saw, this daily wick was extremely ugly. People were calling for the top. And then 2 days later, we actually cleared those highs, which is actually a pretty strong sign. And we're already seeing a rebound here. So I think Bitcoin overall structurally looks pretty good. Ethereum looks slightly better, but if I had to bet, I would say we're probably going to hit new all-time highs on Ethereum and Bitcoin very, very soon. Bitcoin technically made a new high yesterday, and then Ethereum is not far behind. Now, let's talk about the assets that I longed, and then let me go into my altcoin season review, because I want to give you an update on the model that I made a few months ago, and give you an update on where I think we sit in terms of alt season. And then I want to go into some playgrounds that you can look into to make extra gains in this market beyond the majors and the obvious coins in the market. So firstly, I want to give you some updates on my trades. Opened a few leverage trades. Look, I didn't catch the bottom. I got in after confirmation. Sometimes that's good to do. In an ideal world, I would have had stink bids that actually triggered on these assets, but we just got shy of the money noodle here on Ethereum. The only order that triggered was on another exchange for me, and that was Solana. So if you look at Solana on the H4, it actually did tag. This is a bit of a tip I have. H4 noodle, you can literally set your orders in this level here on the exchanges on the corresponding levels. You do have to adjust them based on the noodle because it's a custom indicator on TradingView, but it's actually quite a profitable strategy on the bounce. Now, I didn't get that entry on Ethereum. It was just a little bit shy, so I waited until it was around in this range, and then I took a long on Ethereum. I think it's obvious why I took a long there instead of other assets, because it was one of the strongest in the market. ENA is another one that I took. It's the strongest beta, probably strongest altcoin right now. This is already up $1,200 for me. I literally opened these an hour ago, so $1,000 an hour, not bad. Link is also up nicely as well. Link's one of my favorite assets in the market at the moment. I did a video and a thread on it. I just think narrative-wise, it's super aligned with the market. They just announced their revenue buybacks. I think they had $2 million today for this week, so they're making real money, and they have that pretty normie-friendly narrative, I think. And as a pick and shovel play to RWA stablecoins tokenization, it's a pretty obvious bet in the market, and a few of my friends that are pretty in the know also tend to agree. So that's good that we have confluence there. And then Bitcoin, alongside Ethereum, it's the king, so that also made sense to long. Whenever I'm longing leverage, I don't usually leverage long the super illiquid low cap alts. What I'll do is on a market dip, when I'm looking to long, I'll bid the safer assets that tend to lead on leverage, and then I'll buy spot for other assets that I want to add. So that's why these are the ones that are here. Obviously, this isn't my full portfolio size, but this is one of my trading accounts that I'm going to trade up live on the show for you guys. So I had other longs on other exchanges and stuff like that, but this is the one that I'll be showing on the show. But I do a lot of my trading on Blofin because the UI, as you can see, is absolutely amazing. So I'll keep you updated on these trades. If you do want to trade, we have a freaking amazing deposit bonus at the moment, which is an $1,000 futures bonus, but it's very good because if you deposit $100, you get a $20 futures bonus to trade with. So the bonus will be deposited straight into your account, and you can start trading with it. So if you do want to take any longs or whatever trades you do want to take, you can do so directly. If you put $500 in, you're getting $100 futures bonus. If you do $1,000, you'll get $200 added to your account to trade with. And if you deposit $2,500, this is actually a really good ratio. $2,500, you get $500. And I think a lot of you would have money laying around there on another exchange or something. Even if you just want to open up a new account, deposit $2,500, get the bonus, and then withdraw your money in a few days. That's valid too. You can pretty much farm this. Blofin probably won't like me saying that, but you can take advantage of this if you open an account. The only catch is that it's only for the first 300 users. So you will need to get in quick. Link in the description below. First 300 users only. Terms and conditions here if you want to pause the video and read the terms here, and then you can claim that deposit bonus. So they're the trades that I opened. I'll keep you updated on that side. Just wanted to quickly touch on why I still think things are going higher and my Altseason Model, and then I want to talk into about some playgrounds that you can look into. Firstly, I love this tweet from Mags on why this could be the greatest altcoin season ever. Look, I don't know about the greatest altcoin season ever. I think 2021 was pretty great, but I think he points to some very good reasons why you can probably expect continued upside on Ethereum, and obviously if Ethereum continues to go to the upside, alts are probably likely going to follow suit. So one, ETH's about to break all-time high. Google searches for altcoins at their highest level since 2021, a signal that retail interest is coming back. My only caveat to that would be YouTube views are still down, so is TikTok, Instagram, which are also retail platforms. So I don't think net retail interest is as high. Actually, I think it's lower than it was in 2021, but velocity of searches has increased a lot, and that's why the Google trends are spiking. ETH BTC going vertical, absolutely amazing. I think that key rotation we're going to discuss in a minute, where we review our AI model, has been one of the big triggers for why alts are looking much better now. There's one interesting point about institutions as well. Like, we have all these treasury companies buying coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum with Tom Lee. Now they're looking at Solana. I think Hayes might be on the board of one of these firms. Like, Wall Street is very interested in bidding crypto at the moment. It's almost revitalized the industry. And it's interesting because this is happening at a time where I think a lot of crypto market participants feel super jaded. So Wall Street are having the same aha moment that us crypto participants maybe had back in 2020, 2021. A lot of us, some of us stuck through. Amazing job if you have, but a lot of us are feeling a bit more jaded because there's been a lot of years in this space, and it's absolutely crazy space. But Wall Street, they're coming in absolutely fresh, and they're just chucking money at the wall. So, and they have a lot more money than we did back in 2021. So it's a much more powerful form of money. I think that's coming into the space. It's fresh, excited capital, and billions and billions and billions of dollars of capital that retail frankly doesn't have. So that's why, you're seeing such crazy outperformance on Bitcoin, ETH, maybe Solana next we'll discuss, and probably other assets as well. And then obviously that there's a knock-on effect into the rest of the altcoin market. So these are some of the reasons why alts are poised quite nicely. Now, I want to refer back to this model that I did. I don't know if you guys remember, but a few months ago I did a video called AI Predicts Altseason, and we actually created a custom model based on my beliefs and historical market trends for when you can expect an altcoin season to be triggered. And I wanted to refer back to it today because I've got to report to you guys, a lot of these have actually triggered. Now at the time, remember, everything was pretty boring. In fact, the market was going down, but I wanted to prepare you guys for when things started to heat up so you guys could know when to start acting in the market or start, trading differently in the market, because obviously you want to trade differently during an altcoin season than you would during other periods of the market. So I want to quickly review the 4 pillars that we established as altcoin season triggers. The first trigger is Bitcoin dominance breaking down and eventually hitting less than 60% for 4 candles in a row. We're 1 candle off. So this is starting to happen now. It's at 59%. The trigger's 60%. So you can basically tick that one off. The second one is ETH BTC closing above the 200-day moving average and making a 90-day high. This is also happening. So you're seeing the Ethereum price go vertical, and then you're seeing ETH BTC as well. The money noodle on the daily would be very similar to the 200-day MA. There'd be some variance within, this region here, but we can pretty much establish that it's above, and we can also establish that it is making a 90-day high because it hasn't been this high since December 2024. So that one has triggered as well. The third one is breadth, so altcoin season index going above 40 and rising for 2 weeks. Let's actually look at altcoin season index. I misspelled that, but that's okay. I believe this will be above 40. Yeah, it's 40. It's 53, so it's heading there on the 90-day chart, but on the monthly, it's actually at 67. So this is a bit more of a leading indicator. The 3-month rolling average is a lagging indicator, so we can also tick that off. So that's 3 out of 4. And then the narrative dry pulse is Google Trends going up. So Google Trends above 30 and stablecoin cap going up 8% quarter on quarter. The stablecoin cap is up substantially, and Google Trends are going parabolic for alts. If you actually look up the Google Trends for alts, I tweeted this yesterday and showed it on the show yesterday. So actually all of these have hit. Technically you need confirmation on BTC dominance, but within a couple of days, all of these would have hit. So this was my model for when altcoin season gets triggered. And, I can tell you now that we are in that period of the market, at least according to the model. Now, the other thing that I established in the model was what altcoin season will actually look like this time around, because I don't want you guys to have that belief that it's going to be the same that it was in 2021. Look, if ETH goes to 5, 6, 7, 8K, things are probably going to get stupid. You can throw your logic out the window. You can turn your brain off, right? When the animal instincts are out at play. However, I do think it's good to adopt the base case of this altcoin season being represented by shorter, sharper, and heavily sector selective rotations as opposed to one big everything goes up only period. I do think you need to be a bit smarter. I do think the market's gotten a bit harder since 2021, and you can't hold a big bloated portfolio worth of altcoins. So what I wanted to do today was give you some places to look that you can actually look to outperform the market. I think relative strength is extremely important during this period in the market. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but right now you should be longing your winners and cutting your losers. You want to be in the strongest horses. Opportunity cost is a big factor in a bull run. Before your dead altcoins start running in 3 months, there could have been a massive trend like, RWA or ETH or Solana, which you might miss because you're parked in the wrong alt. So instead of doubling down on your losers, stick to your winners and stick to coins that are showing relative outperformance versus Bitcoin and Ethereum. That would be my number one advice for a crypto bull run. Even on dips, you notice how the 2 altcoins that I decided to long, aside, obviously Bitcoin's not an altcoin, but aside from Ethereum, were ENA and Link. Why? Because they have been the 2 strongest horses versus Ethereum. Obviously, there are others as well, but these are 2 of the strongest coins in the market. These are the sort of coins you want to be looking at longing. But further on from that, you want to be looking at the ecosystems which have the right narrative to outperform the market. So let me give you some additional places to look aside from ETH betas, because I've spoken about Link, I've spoken about ETH betas. If you want the alpha, these videos are still extremely relevant. Go watch my last 3 videos. All of these are extremely relevant. I talk about my ETH beta portfolio. I do a tier list to help you rank them. I speak about the Link thesis. And then yesterday, I gave some great setups in the market. But I want to give you some new ideas today. So the first idea is the Solana ecosystem, because we're seeing Bitcoin at a new all-time high. We probably know Ethereum is going to be next. And in my opinion, Sol's going to follow. Now, I'm starting to hear murmurs of a Sol treasury company, potentially Arthur Hayes is involved. And I think that the Sol treasury company narrative, the DAT narrative, alongside potential ETF speculation. We still don't have a sold ETF, but I expect that at some point it will get one. I think this will ramp up and create more of a narrative for Solana. And when I look at the chart, there's actually an opportunity now at 195. I think on the weekly time frame, this is pretty well poised to make a run to 250, 260 is its prior all-time high, and then eventually break above. Because this is what you're seeing in the market. You're seeing these phases. Bitcoin ran first, then Ethereum ran, and in my opinion, it's logical for Solana to run. It's a bit of a contrarian bet right now, actually. I know it might not seem like that if you're in close crypto circles, but a lot of the market is so focused on ETH right now that it's forgetting just how strong the Solana ecosystem is, and that it has a really strong narrative and has, exhibited product market fit. So I think Solana will be a good play, and I'm looking at adding to my Solana position on this dip. I mentioned before, Link was another one. Definitely keep this on your radar. This is a good uptrend as well. Bitcoin's actually in a downtrend on the H4, but it broke out. Link hasn't broke out yet of this uptrend. This looks very similar, by the way, to the XRP channel that it was in for a long time before it expanded to the upside. So I think Link can go higher. So on the Solana front, going back to Solana for a second before I get to the next ecosystem, look into the beta plays as well. I think Radium looks like the strongest, but potentially some of the memes could also come back. So I wouldn't fade the memes. If I had to pick one of the strongest ones, aside from Radium, it would probably be Mu. The reason I like Mu is because technically it looks good firstly. So it's actually in an uptrend. This is probably the level that I would bid. It's getting pretty close there, but I have been DCAing and adding recently. And then it has this major pivot point that if it breaks above, I think could lead to quite an explosive move. I mean, this hit 1.2 billion market cap. It's down to 200 mil. And for me, in this stage of the cycle for memes, the reason I like, memes like Pengu, for example, is because they're actually unique. I think things like PopCat won't do as well during this next run. I think memes with actual IP and their own branding and their own strong communities will do a lot better. So that's one of the reasons I like Pengu, but Mu also is one of the only memes in the market that actually has its own IP. So what they're doing is they're partnering with the Locus Animation Studio to create a new 3D animated series. So this is going to be extremely cool, and I don't see the same hustle, grind, effort being put into other memes. Like, this team works really, really hard. I've met with the team. I think they're amazing, and they genuinely work really, really hard. So Mu's actually one of my only big meme coin holds. Aside from, I still hold some SPX, of course. I publicly bought that on the show at 50 cents. And I still hold some Pengu. I think that one's good to add on dips. But Mu's the one on Solana that I'm looking at as a not only Solana beta play, but I think it can do well in its own right. So that's one. And then my probably DeFi play on Solana is Radium, just because I think the Radium chart looks so much better structurally than Jupiter, in my opinion. It also just broke past a pretty clear level here, so you can see this. If this confirms above, this could be an interesting breakout long. If not, if you're more of a trader, you probably want to go down the time frames and look for a potential dip buy. So if this pulls back into the noodle, you could look at that as well. So that's the Solana ecosystem. That's one area that I'd be looking aside from Ethereum. The other playground that I'd be looking at aside from Ethereum is Base. This is some alpha because this is an absolutely crazy stat. Only 1% of the Coinbase app currently has direct access to DeFi on Base. So they're doing a slow rollout across the app over the coming months, where eventually they open up their app to more and more and more people to use DeFi. But they've only done 1%. Now, Coinbase has 120 million users and $328 billion on the platform. So $300 billion could have direct access to DeFi, and 120 million people could have direct access. Only 1.2 million currently have access. Base TVL has already hit an all-time high even before. So I think this is a pretty left curve, no-brainer ecosystem to be diving deep into. Me and my research team have been going really deep into it. We are literally down in the trenches looking at all the low caps. I've found some amazing stuff. I haven't called anything yet because some of them are super low. There's one on the screen here that's 2 million that we are very, very interested in. That there are some more that are in the $5 to $10 million range. Honestly, apart from Aero and Zora, which are the leaders, some of this stuff has barely run yet, but shows a lot of promise in my opinion. And I'll be posting these ads first in the Discord. That's where I post all of my early alpha. Even today, you can see here I posted these trades there. Earlier in the day, actually posted Cook 2 days ago. This is up 50% from my first call at 10 million. this has been a good one. ENA, I posted pretty early in the Discord. That was 472% on my OG trade, and then I added more today. Pump, we actually caught this wick perfectly. It ran from, as you can see, the 3 billion when I posted it to 4 billion. This was the original post. All of my early stuff's in the Discord. For the base low cap plays, these will also be posted first in the Discord. Either way, whether you're in the Discord or not, research this stuff on your own, because I definitely think this is a place to look. I want to give you the places to look, but I will be giving you the exact coins in the Discord as well. If you are a member, I also want to point out that it's not just me that posts alpha. I think that would be a little bit disingenuous to the amazing analysts that are also in the Discord. So Doc's actually going live in 45 minutes for an education live mentorship with members. Morin does 2 a week, so he's an amazing trader, and you guys can learn and put together your own strategy with him. Fabian does his market outlook, and he also has a lot of low cap plays. Fabian's one of the best low cap pickers that I've seen. I'm not just saying that. He called Launchcoin, as you guys know, at 17 million. It ran up to 360, and this was just in a few days. Paradise obviously has his weekly AMA. I have my weekly AMA, and I'd like to tell you another big YouTuber, and I'm not just tooting my own horn, but, well, actually, you can tell me, does any other big YouTuber or, Twitter person with hundreds of thousands of followers answer every single question in their community? Because as you can see here, every single day, anyone that asks me a question in Questions for Miles, I get to the questions. Some days there are 40, 50 questions. I get to them. I answer. If people want coins charted, opinions on coins, updates on coins, I have my coin updates channel. You can see just today, I did updates on Link, Pump, ABT, even some older coins that I've spoken about before, Link, Avail, Cook, Checks, like any coin you want an update on, I update here, my positioning, my thoughts, etc. I can't always do that on the YouTube shows, but I can do it in the Discord. So if you want to be a part of an amazing community, today is the last day to join and get the money back guarantee. Of course, you can always join in the future without the guarantee, but today is the last day for the promo, where if you sign up and you don't like the group within 10 days, you can open a support ticket and we'll give you a refund. That's how confident I am that you'll love the group and find so much value in there, because we're literally willing to give you your money back if you don't like it. But this specific offer ends in the next 24 hours. So if you want access to that, make sure you click the link in the description and sign up. But to summarize, Solana and Base are 2 ecosystems that I would be focusing my attention on, because they both have specific catalysts. So I think that pretty much wraps up today's video. I'll leave the link to the Blofin campaign. Sign up to claim that deposit bonus and Mars High Club in the description below. I'll keep you updated on my trades. These are still going pretty well. The market has bounced, starting to cool down now. I think we might consolidate for a little bit. Keep in mind, bull market dips are opportunities, and I still think we are going higher over the coming weeks and months. I'll see you tomorrow for a very good episode. It's with Jason Pizzino, so make sure you're subbed to the channel. He's going to be going through his macro take on the market. He's a little bit less degen than me, which I think is going to be great for you guys on the channel to hear from him as well. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.